Welcome to the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike. We're back.
We're back again. 2 straight weeks, man. You think we're getting back into it or what?
I think so. And you had even said that we might try to do another one. We tried, and I'll apologize to all of our fans.
You
I got poison ivy, and I'm just an itchy mess. So
got poison
Kevin's
ivy
like,
in some rough places too, though.
yeah,
Like
you
it's not
know,
just like on your arm, it's like on your neck and crap. That sucks.
yeah, right there on the inner elbow where it bends. And I thought I
Mm,
had it under control, and then it grew 3 consecutive days. It's like
mm.
just miserable, but it's just annoying, really, is what it is.
Yeah, it
I've
really
been
is.
I've been I've been in more pain. I've been more miserable, but this is like an annoying. It's
It
like, why isn't
is.
this gone yet?
It's irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yep.
I think that's one of my worst things ever. The one of the worst things I ever had was poison ivy like on my face,
Yep.
and then I had to go to work, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna have these red. Anyway, you get it.
Yep. I
Anyway,
had
everybody,
some
welcome
right
back.
along my hairline,
Oh
and
yeah,
then I had some right above my eye. But
mm,
when I put the lotion on that, went away right away. But
mm,
man, on my neck and on my
yeah.
arm, no. But
Well, that's where you crease.
yep, yep,
Yeah. Well, anybody,
absolutely.
welcome back, everybody. We're glad that you're listening. Thank you to the Boom Squad. Uncle Jeep's in the house tonight, and we're just thankful for everybody that listens. Make sure that if you like the podcast, that you're sharing it out tonight. We just kind of got a little freeform show. We don't really have a topic, but we do have a topic. We're just going to talk about general things, and I guess observances is kind of what I would call this show. Today, last night. Let's start off last night. I went out fishing with a couple of friends. We stayed out fishing till about 3 a.m. Got back to the boat ramp about 3:45.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was like monumental for me. But
Yeah.
we tried our first TikTok live. Real like shot at it. And I think it went well.
Yeah.
We had about 200 people at first, and then they're like, "Yeah, he's not catching as much fish as Chunky Cats." So we had a solid 40 in there for a while, and I was thankful for that. But we caught about 8 fish last night, and that was awesome. The biggest one was about 20 pounds. Anyway, so I got home around 4, as you can imagine. Lights out real quick. I actually woke up at a decent time, man. I went to work about 8:30, and she was saying goodbye to me, and I got right up out of bed. So that little 4 hours of sleep, did me fine. Um, but anyway, the point is that today, instead of going out on the water with all the pleasure boaters and everything, they're trying to get that last bit of summer in before summer vacation's over. I decided that my boat is in desperate need of a good pressure washing. So, Mike, I took this little bathroom cleaner from Walmart. It's like 98 cents. I bought like 4 bottles. And I just sprayed the deck, sprayed the seats down, took everything off the boat that wasn't bolted down. So you're talking about life jackets, tackle boxes, weight boxes, first aid kit, whatever. Anything that wasn't bolted to the boat came off, cleaned out everything. Um, cleaned the boat obviously, but the thing that I'm trying to get to is that after I cleaned the boat, I went through all of this stuff that I had packed in there, and honestly, I'd forgotten a lot of stuff I put in there. And that's kind of where I want to start tonight. Is I'm obviously looking at this from a boater's perspective, and you're going to look at it from a bank fisherman's perspective. But what are the things that we have on board on my boat with me, and in the truck bed or in your tackle box or whatever, your to go bag when we go fishing, that we have to have, or that it's a good idea to have, that maybe we don't always think about? So I'll go first. One of those things for me was last year on a live stream. I caught about a 4 pound blue cat. No, it wasn't that big, maybe a pound or two. and I was being cavalier with how I was holding it, and I wasn't treating the fish with respect that it deserved, and it flipped on me. And that side fin went directly into the web of the web of my thumb and my pointer finger is actually this hand, and stabbed me pretty good, probably about a quarter inch into the web of my hand, and this was live. And Jeep says I keep torpedoes. Necessary, you gotta have them torpedoes. But anyway, after that, I now keep a gallon of water, distilled water, on the boat, and then I also keep first aid. I made two first aid kits, and I didn't even realize I had them in there. It's been a year since I even looked at them, and so that's one of the things. What about you, Mike? What's one of your things?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with your first aid kit. And I learned the lesson when I cut myself and I didn't have anything to put on it. No band-aid, no ointment, no nothing. And actually, I'll give Kristen full credit. She's the one who got the little first aid kit and put it
Ah,
in my tackle bag.
way to go, Kristen.
And then I didn't even think about it again until a gentleman just down the bank happened to. He's like, "Hey, I was rigging up my line here and I kind of stabbed myself with my knife. You wouldn't happen to have any big band-aids, would you?" And I'm like, "Oh Lord, what am I going to see here?" And I went over there and there was a lot of blood,
Mm,
but he didn't have any band-aid to cover. He got it
mm,
under control, but he didn't have any band-aid to cover it up. So that's when I got to explain to him that Kristen's really smart and
mm.
organized my bag for me with this gift. But
Yeah, just to finish up the first aid thing. One thing that I didn't realize that was you need to clean the wound, and I didn't have any kind of water on there. Like even the water that I brought to drink was flavored water, and you definitely don't want to clean it out with the river water,
Yep,
um, with all the bacteria in there, and then your flavored water, that's full of chemicals or whatever.
yep.
So that's why I keep the gallon of distilled water on there, um, to clean out the wound. I didn't realize how much that was necessary. So that was just something that I always had a first aid kit, but it wasn't so extensive, and I definitely didn't have the water.
Well, you've brought a great topic here, and I feel really bad that almost all of my initial thoughts have been examples of failure. Examples of we have
Well, it
all
makes
this
sense though.
stuff, we have all this space, and yet we can fail to have something that is, either needed once in a while or needed all the time. The first thing that popped in my head when you said, what can uh, I thought of a net
Mhm.
because I'm always hearing from my family members, "Oh, I went fishing and hooked this big fish, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to land it, and I didn't have my net. I left it up in the truck." And I'm just like, "You got no excuse then. You even had it in the truck and you still." They're like, "Well, I wasn't planning on catching any big fish." Well, there's another failure, but I don't really feel that's what you meant by the topic.
No, but that's unique
Um,
to bank fishermen. Like a net is always going to be on board the boat, but you think about the bank fishermen. Most of the fish are just going to drag up on the bank. But
Usually you get a
if you
nice
get a
piece of bank.
if you get a whopper, or you're in a bank with a steep decline or something, you got to think about that stuff. And
Yep,
what if you have a long walk from the truck? You got to figure the benefits versus the toil of, I'm going to tote that
absolutely.
net all that way down.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. All right. So the next thing that I saw, that I knew I had this, but I always forget what's in it. And I guess, out of sight, out of mind, you forget about that stuff. But I have a dry bag, and it's basically just uh, a plastic, you know, plastic bag, but not like Walmart bag, but it's polyurethane or poly whatever they call it. What is it? Polyurhythmics. No, that's a band. Uh, Polypropylene. There you go. Polypropylene sack. And you put your stuff in it, and then you roll the air out, and then it's got a buckle on top so you can have a handle. And I have that on the boat. And it's interesting you brought up failures, because most of the time, unless you're really proactive, if you don't have these experiences to teach you what you need to have, or you don't have somebody telling you, hey, you need a first aid kit with water on the boat, you learn from those mistakes. You don't want that to happen again. So one of the things is, I got caught in a rainstorm back when I had the little bass boat, and we got soaked. It's summertime, no big deal, right? Well, the temperature dropped like 30 degrees, and I'm soaking wet, freezing my tail off. And I said, never again, never again. So I have that dry bag. It's got a t-shirt, it's got a rain suit in it, it's got some big thick socks in it, and it's got like a beanie hat, and basically stuff to keep you dry and warm in case of emergency. So that's always shoved up in there under one of those seats. And thankfully I haven't had to use. I have had to use a rain jacket, but nothing else. I haven't had that big of an emergency since. So that's my number two thing that I noticed today when I cleaned out the boat.
Well, the second thing that I thought of that I think of as a real need when I'm fishing, and sometimes for whatever reason I don't happen to have it in my tackle bag, is a pair of pliers.
Mm-hmm.
And these can be used either to help you get a hook out of a fish's mouth. I mean, if you're lucky, you'll catch a big fish, and sometimes they happen to hook themselves in a difficult position,
Mm-hmm.
or you get them in that jaw, and it's just hard to
Get them in their
you
bone.
can't get it out with your hand,
Yeah.
with your fingers. Another thing you can use pliers for is if your tackle bag falls apart and you got to bend something back into place, or even your rod or your reel.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been times where I'm just like, what did you do to this reel? And Lauren's like, I don't know, get some pliers out and fix it. And she's right. And I didn't happen to have any pliers. And she's
Mm.
like, you got all those pliers at home and you don't have one pair. I mean, it's the funniest thing. To me,
Dad, you
it's
got
all
so much
reminder that
pliers.
it's all a reminder that God has a great sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
And, but
No, I agreed. Pliers. I can't tell you. Like, yeah, last night I think I used pliers for the fish. Um, I do have snips to cut lines and stuff, but oftentimes, since the pliers are already on my bait board, I just grab the pliers to cut line. So cut line. Um, Whenever I'm brim fishing and I bend those gold hooks, I use the pliers to bend it back. I mean, you're right, man. There's so many things. If you have a loose nut or a bolt or something, you can just grab them, and even though they're not meant for that, but
yeah.
that's an awesome one, man.
Well,
And
especially on a boat, because you can run into different sizes as well.
mm-hmm.
I had always tried to keep like a very compact socket set
Yep.
and some pliers and a couple screwdrivers
Mm-hmm.
on the boat when I had a boat, but then honestly, I never used anything but the pliers.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next thing. Is I have a dry box that I take on and off. It's got my fishing license in it. It's got some emergency stuff, fuses, things like that. And then it's got my trolling motor remote, my pliers, my bait knife, all that stuff. But that comes on and off the boat with me, so that I don't have to dig through stuff to find it. But in that dry box, I have a little socket set. I have a pair of channel locks, a couple screwdrivers. But what I didn't realize is, in that safety kit that I had made that we talked about earlier, I have a screwdriver in there too. I never knew about. I got a screwdriver in there. I got pliers in there. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Surgery maybe with that stuff on my hand. I don't know, but it's in there, and that it's good to have that stuff. And I wish, sometimes when you get an emergency situation, because hopefully you're not getting in emergency situations a whole lot, but you don't really remember that stuff is there. But I'd like to believe that if on the boat or on the bank, if we're ever in a real bad situation, that we'd have to search through stuff that we have just to see what we got, and then that stuff would pop up, and we'd be thankful that we put it in there. But yeah, a good little toolkit. I don't carry much. At a certain point, you just got to realize, you're not fixing that engine. you
Yep.
know, you know,
Yep.
you got the basics to do the basic little things that always, that commonly go wrong. But if you throw a piston or I don't know, whatever, blow it up, it is what it is. How about you, man? What's next? Bank fishing need to have.
Um, Tagging on to what you were saying there, y- 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 some think about it too. Some boats are really small. You
Mm,
don't have a lot of space to be carrying a whole lot of
true
extra
that.
weight, a lot of extra boxes or bags, containers, whatnot. So, like you had said earlier, consider carrying some of these things in your truck.
Mm-hmm.
When you're launching a boat, another thing to consider is you have the trailer.
Yep.
So you may need to tighten bolts on your trailer. So having that stuff on your boat may not be the best idea. If you keep it in your
Right.
truck,
Having
then
your truck, toolkit in your
you
truck.
can
Yeah.
you can put your boat there on the dock and leave it for a little bit, go fix your trailer up real
Mm-hmm.
quick, then you're good to go. I ran into that too. Even though it was a new boat and a new trailer, I'm like, what are all these bolts doing on the ground? Yeah. Yeah, somebody forgot
That's
to
a good
tighten
one.
that whole left side. That's what it was. They were good on the right, bad on the left.
I had to fix my trailer lights after before I went fishing, and the both bulbs blew at the same time. Imagine that. From what I'm being told, when one of them shorted out and blew, it sent all the energy to the other one. I don't know if that's how electricity works, but it happened. Um, but having a dependable trailer is worth more than having a dependable boat, in my opinion. Um, I know it seems weird to say, but you're not even getting to the landing if you can't get on your trailer,
Nope.
So I've already had, speaking of trailer mishaps, I've already had a leaf spring. My leaf springs broke, and I wasn't prepared for it. It's never happened to me before. I never knew what to do. Never even knew how to identify if a leaf spring broke, what would happen. Well, what happens is once that leaf spring breaks, there's no suspension on your trailer, and if you have wheel wells on your trailer, it comes down on the tire. So I had to drag that boat home after some research, and I don't ever want that to happen again. I found out that if you keep a little block of wood, just a little 2x4 block of wood, um, you know 5-6 inches long, you can jack that trailer up off the axle and put that block of wood there so that your trailer is not sitting on the wheel, but it's actually sitting on the axle. So now I keep a block of wood in my truck. It's the oddest thing. Nobody's ever asked me about it, but I'm waiting for somebody to go, why do you have just a block of wood in your in your truck? Well, you see, this one time I drug a boat home and it was smoking. Uh, but I have a block of wood and I have an extra hub assembly, and of course the spare tire. But yeah, the block of wood is something I never ever thought about. Our Boom Squad member Chris said definitely a lifesaver. Yeah, I again, like Mike said, I never knew until I knew, and is because and that wasn't necessarily a mistake. That was just a lesson learned from you know an unfortunate circumstance. All right, Mike, what's your next one?
I used to think of this item as a luxury item, but the more I fish, especially with when I use cut bait, I think that a towel, a bait
Oh
towel,
yes.
or three
Yeah.
is really a good idea
Hmm.
because little shad scales are getting all over you. You get a microfiber towel that can actually take some of those away from your hands. That way you don't get them all over your rods and your reels. Everything gets disgusting if you don't wash your hands up. Trish takes it to another level. She
Yep.
brings wipes,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
and I didn't realize I had them right there. She's like, "Mike, just use diaper wipes. You got them at your house." I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
Genius,
cases,
genius.
cases of diaper wipes right in front of me," and I didn't think of it that way,
Yeah.
and it seemed like for years, it's like, "Hey, you got a towel?" And Tone would be like, "Yeah, of course." And I'm just like, "Yeah, well, of course I forget mine, and I started putting more in there because more towels is not a bad thing.
It's not.
It's really not. And you can't just have one or two because then they get dirty. You throw them aside so you can launder them. So have a lot, have quite a few.
Our friend Uncle Jeep says bait towels are a must in capital letters when you use pack bait when carp fishing.
Now, it's not blood and guts like cut bait, but that pack bait is sticky.
Mm.
You make it sticky for that exact reason. Uncle Jeep is 100% correct. And I almost would rather not have a towel when I'm doing cut bait. I'll just wash my hands off in the water versus pack bait. I want to scrub it off of there. Yeah, it's,
Yeah. So, as you know, I like to shell cracker fish,
mhm.
and when you use worms, you got that dirt. The dirt really isn't a big deal, but then when you get the worm slime, on your hand and then touch the dirt, it becomes mud. And when you forget a towel, we call it a poop towel, um, for worm poop. But whenever you forget that, you can tell if somebody's forgot their worm towel because their shirt and their shorts are just nasty. Especially, especially if you're on a bed of shell cracker and you're catching them or brim, same thing. Because what do? You naturally go what? You take that hand down to your side and you go whoop, all clean, and then
Yep.
you're not looking at yourself. Especially as bigger guys, we're not looking past that gut to see where we're
No,
wiping
we're
stuff.
not.
You know,
We
and you
can't
take your
see it.
you're taking off your shirt and like, holy crap, did I have that on me the whole time?
I usually wear jeans, and even up to like 85 degrees, I'll probably still have
Mm,
jeans on, and that's because I'm type 2 diabetic, and my doctor and my nutritionist have both said try to your best to protect your feet, wear steel toes as much as you can, which I wear them for the warehouse anyway. And then they also say if you think that you might be in a situation where you could get a cut on yourself,
mhm.
always wear jeans because it's a thick extra layer because I don't want to get a cut and get some kind of infection and then start having troubles.
Yeah.
But in having those jeans, I'm always like, well, it's pretty much like wearing a towel. They're thick, they're rugged, they can take it, and I'm smart about it too. I will make sure that I do not rub the side of my jeans. I just rub the top of them. So that way, when I get back into the truck, I'm not getting my truck seat
Mhm.
nasty. But you brought up a level of nastiness there, and I think we need to touch on it briefly. What on earth is it about worm slime? Because that is an extra level of nastiness.
Yeah, I mean, so gardeners use worm castings, poop, to fertilize gardens. They even make something called worm tea. And so when the water and the poop
It,
mix, it makes a tea looking a brown substance.
oh man,
So
they
worms,
can't use that word. That's my favorite drink. Oh, that's horrible of them.
worms are like the most efficient animal on the planet. I mean, they eat, process, and then fertilize for the next generation. I mean, they're crazy. But anyway, you get a box of worms, and chances are those box of worms have been sitting in that refrigerator in the bait shop for a couple weeks. Maybe not a couple weeks, but at least a week. So they've done their business in there many times. So when you grab them, you got worm poop on your hands, and then when you put them on the hook, you get that yellow slime on you, and that's sticky. So then you have worm poop and yellow slime mixed on your fingertips. Um, you got to have that bait. I'll put the bait towel, like, I'll tuck it into my pants, and then that way it's right there where I naturally want to wipe my pants.
Yep.
So I just
Yep.
wipe the towel right there. But you got to have it. You got to have the towel. That the towel is definitely an awesome choice for must-haves. And to be quite honest, I take a full bath towel with me when I go, because I go early in the mornings, and when I get out there, the seats are all wet. So I take the bath towel and I just wipe the seats off, and that ends up becoming a catch-all towel too.
Yep.
I know people say don't use your bath towels for that. Man, we've had the same bath towels since we got married, like 10, 11 years ago. We got washing machines. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I had been offered some beach towels, some in not so great condition, and other ones looked like they were brand new.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, a couple months back, she's like, "Hey, you need some towels?" I'm like, "Yep, I will take all of them." I left one or two of them in the truck just in case I happen to forget other towels to use in like an emergency situation, like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying. And I forgot towels a lot. So,
Man, I've forgotten a towel before, and then I have the one from last time, like wet and nasty on the boat with a little bit of
ooh,
mold on it. I don't care, man. I'll wash that sucker out in the water, and then I'll have it fresh bait towel. Like, you got to have one. I mean, that should. I'm not gonna be too dramatic, but that's like almost as important as bringing your rod and reel. Sometimes, I mean, you got to have that.
I I actually wrote down right here that the bait towel's just as important as the bait.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta have it.
But then you got those guys that just don't care. I mean,
Yep.
I wish I could be that way, but I've always been brought up to wash your hands and stay clean, and just having. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I'm in the mix and the fish are biting, I'm baiting up, grabbing the poles, throwing it out. I'll clean it up later, type deal. But
Yeah.
I'm rarely in that situation when the fishing's that good. So.
I just have this thing where I don't like anything to be on me. I don't like lotions, I don't
Yeah.
like creams, and I certainly don't like anything that's kind of borderline gross. But when I'm getting ready to cast out and fish, I'm just thinking to myself, don't get the reels all nasty because then I will tear them all the way down to the last screw and piece that's in there. And that takes so much time. Whereas just making sure to wash and wipe your hand off, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, the last 2 years, I think I fished with people, and of those 2 years, twice a kid set a reel down in the sand, and I'm like, don't do that, don't. And you try to be nice about it because in your mind you're like, boy, and it's like, are you thinking or what? It's like, don't freak out. Yeah, I'm like, we don't want the reel to be in the sand. And I mean, this one kid showed up last year, and I may have talked about it in one of our earlier podcasts, but this kid shows up. He rode down from the campgrounds on his bicycle, and there I was catching catfish. Didn't even know he was there. This little kid was a ninja. And so I turn around and he's like, "That's the biggest catfish I've ever seen." I'm like, "You should see my friend's fish." And he's like, "No, I just mean right here." He's like, "I didn't know there was fish right here." He's like, "My family comes and camps." And he said he always lived by a pond and he would fish this pond. I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, stick around, man." I was like, "Let's see if we can get you a fish to catch." And I never did. Total
Mm.
failure there too. But
It happens.
it was fun to talk with him. It was fun to enjoy it. It was fun to encourage him. He did not happen to have his fishing rod or reel there, so he had to get a hold of his dad, or maybe it was his stepdad. I don't know, but it did sound like he was struggling a little bit with the divorced family situation and trying to find something to do with the stepdad or whatever, and something they could share, something they could do together. And so I had told him, I'm like, I just got a bad feeling about this part of the bank. I think we're going to make a big move to the left. And he's like, okay. So I'm like, all right. I was like, I'm going to start moving some of this stuff. And then in the end, we'll move the last couple rods, and we'll get our chairs down there. So I took a chair out for him from the truck, and, he pushed his bike over there and everything. And when I get the last bit of stuff to the spot, like 150 yards down the bank, I turn around and there's this kid dragging both rods by their rod tips, and the reels are just buried, just anchoring in that sand. And that's when I'm like, no, no,
Mm.
no, no, we don't want to do that. I was like, we risk breaking the rods if we carry them by the top eye, and the reels are not made to go through all that sand.
Mm.
I was like, they won't turn so good.
That's
And
tough.
he's like, oh, whoops. I'm like, so I
Mm,
tore those down to the
mm.
last screw and last piece because they needed it. But anyway, I've thrown us off topic, and
That's all right.
I
That's a
didn't
good
even say
story.
bacon.
That's a good story. I guess being a boat owner, one of the things, and I've said the major things. Everything else kind of is transitional. Goes on and off the boat with me. But going back to the trailer and to the boat and everything, having extra fuses. I have some extra fuses. I have some extra light bulbs. Um, I have a lighter. I think a lighter. Uh, Everyone needs to have a lighter in their truck, in their car, on in a book bag, whatever. You need something or a fire starter. Let me say a fire starter. But more than just fire starting, a lighter can help you with other things. Uh, that can help you melt something together or shrink wrap something, or there's just a ton of uses for it, and just having fire readily accessible is really important. We're getting borderline survival now, but I'm just thinking about especially after last Friday where we got caught in that hurricane out there on the river. I started going through in my head, do we have everything we would need if we had to be stranded on this island for a day, or something like that. So the answer was no, but it was okay. It was okay. I thought about it, so that was, now I'm prepared a little bit better now. Um, so that's it for me, man. Those are the major things. You got any more?
Well, that is an awesome way to look at it. It's also an awesome way to transition because in our pre-show when we were catching up, you had said a few different things, a few different ways, and I just had the thought, and of course I dropped it, so I'm going to sound like a bumbling idiot again because I mentioned it was a great time to transition, and now I'm going to just make this transition awkward as can be. But but
That's the only problem with
earlier,
live
that's
podcasting.
right. That's right. You can't take it back.
Nope.
But earlier you had said, um, did you ever have a situation where you needed something and you didn't realize that you did have it.
Right.
And this is why you unloading the boat, cleaning it, deep cleaning it, getting this interesting knowledge, having this experience, then thinking about your what you encountered, what you did. You're now are ready to start talking about, am I as organized as I want to be? Am I organized where I want to be, how I want to be? And then you also can take and expand upon this even further. Because, like you just said right there, you got caught in some weather and
Mhm.
it made you think, but now you know.
Yep.
And so, are there a few other items you're thinking of adding? Can you add them in one container? Which compartment are you going to store those in? Are you going to change how you look at this? Because maybe you have a little too much of this that won't be used often at all. You can take that out, utilize that space, and put something in there that may be more useful should you have that bad scenario where you're like, look, dude, we're getting off the water. We're going to be on this island for a while, one of the Palmetto Islands.
No, one of the things, and Chris, one of our Boom Squad members, Chris typed in the chat, zip ties are awesome. Yes, I actually do have zip ties in my dry box because my anchor, you have to have zip ties for the anchor, but I never really thought about them as an emergency tool, so that's good. I
Do
need
you
to put
have the bigger twist ties, the reusable,
yeah,
big,
so
huge twist
yeah,
ties?
the
I
gear
like those
gear
also.
ties. So I
Yeah.
naturally have 4 gear ties with me because I gear tie my rods in a bundle because it's just easier to take them on and off the boat. I have to
Hmm.
unload and load my boat almost completely every time I go fishing because I store my boat in a community lot. So trolling motor comes off, all the tackle boxes, the rods. Um, I'll leave the first aid kit and stuff because that's under the seats. Um, but
You're
yeah, so
saying that they don't appreciate you leaving such a beautiful boat in your driveway?
yeah, they don't let us leave it in our driveway. Absolutely not. Hopefully, we'll get out of this soon, but that'll take us way off topic if we keep talking about that. But I thought about, I've now that I've cleaned out the boat, and it's like a twice a year thing that I do this. I'll do it at the end of the summer, and then I'll do it like at the end of the winter because nobody's cleaning their boat, pressure
Yep.
washing their boat in the wintertime. But now I have a lot of extra under seat storage. In fact, I've packed stuff a little better now that I have more room in there. And
Good.
so in my dry box, Jeep says the TP, yeah, emergency fire starter TP. That's a good one. That's a good one. But as far as TP goes, I have wet wipes, and they're biodegradable. But I thought about putting a little container in there, a survival container with one of my MRE meals that I have behind me. Like
Hmm.
just even if it's just one meal, if you're even if you get in a position which I can't imagine with us, you know, we're not that rural, but if you're in a situation where you're stuck, you know, stranded, one meal will last you 3 days. I mean, you can go 3 days without water. You can go 3 weeks without food. So if you have one meal on you, you're doing good. But that gallon of water, I always keep that on there. But just a like an emergency kit, fire starters, like Jeep reference, maybe what do you call that? Emergency blanket.
Yeah, I was
You
just
know,
thinking that, because think about it too. It might not be the emergency that has taken you. You could come upon someone, you could have to react to someone who just smashed their boat on something that, because your waters are not, all pleasure boat waters. You have uh the waters you always tell me are dangerous because they have lots of stumps.
Yeah, Lake Marion,
And
all of Lake Marion.
yeah, so you could have to react to a
Yeah, that's
situation.
true.
They could be in the water, they could be cold. You would need that blanket for
Hmm.
them if you went to help them in distress. So
Yeah. Yeah, just a little survival kit, and then all the stuff you think about that goes in there. You know, if I run out of that water, which again, in the areas that I'm fishing, I'm not. I'm probably get rescued within a day. Um, but just in case, a survival straw, something small to put in there. A little cup to boil stuff in. Stuff like that. So that's what I thought about. I also thought about different ways to organize my stuff, and I almost made a mistake. Uh, I looked at my anchors, and I'm like, those anchors take up a lot of space, and I'm just spot locking a lot these days. I'm like, Kevin, you're a moron. You always need to have an anchor on the boat, in my opinion. You always need to have an anchor on the boat. That spot lock can go down. Friday night, my spot lock went down last Friday night, and I got blown into the trees. What if the engine didn't crank? I could have just thrown that anchor out and tied it off, and it would have grabbed eventually. I think
yep.
you always need to have at least one anchor in the boat. But I went ahead and put both of them in there. I put them back in there.
Well, and for a
But
boat your size, it's probably safest to have two.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and then I've decided that I don't always. So I do two styles of fishing. You have the lake fishing, which is majority for me dragging baits, staying on the move. So I need planer boards, dragging weights, all that kind of stuff. And then for river fishing, it's mostly anchoring and or spot locking, stuff like that. So then I need a different type of weight for that, and I don't need the planer board. So I put a place in my garage now where I have my drift socks and my drifting stuff, since I have to unload and load the boat anyway. But it saves me a ton of room. Like right now, underneath my main seat, my main guest seat in the boat, which is my biggest storage area, all I have is a waist sling in there, right? And the bucket. I have the bucket in there. That's another one. Got to have the bucket.
The the bucket is what allows us to fish for hours and hours and hours since we have small kids and young kids. And
Mm.
what I will say though is once they start to like the bucket, trust the bucket, and understand how helpful the bucket is, then they want to use it every hour on the hour just
Yeah.
because they know you have it. So
If I were you, if
it
I had two little
becomes a
girls
curse.
and I banked fish all the time, I'd have me a pea palace in the back of the truck. Just have
Yeah.
always have it on me, and then for me too. We're watching, and this is a really enjoyable show, y'all. It's got a lot of bad language in it, so maybe I shouldn't recommend it. But it's like real life. It's called Snowflake Mountain, and it's on Netflix. And basically, a lot of privileged 20 somethings that never have to do anything. They don't pay for anything. They party all the time. Their parents, trick them and send them out on this mountain where they have to learn survival stuff. And at first, they're all like, "I'm not staying here," and of course they can't force them. But there's a $50,000 reward if they finish. So of course, they
Oh.
want to. I am enjoying that show so like I had to pull myself away to come do this. I love it. And you have every type of personality. You have alternative lifestyles, you have alternative cultures and different personalities. There's a lot of f bomb dropping, so it's not for the kids. But man, um, just having those watching those people doing it just I forgot what my point was. I was about to recommend the show, and I had a point to it, but it's about realizing what you have and learning. Okay, I remember now. I got it. Sorry, folks listening. That's live podcasting for you. So I was talking about the bucket. We're talking about the bucket, right?
Yep, the
Well, these
bucket.
guys, the one of the last episodes I was watching that, I pulled myself away. They're hiking up a mountain, and this girl's narrating, and she's like, "Such and such was behind me the whole time. He's talking and talking. He just got quiet, and he kept getting quieter, and he started making noises. And then they cut to him. He goes, "Yeah, I have to crap so bad." And I'm like, "That's me. That's me. I'm the one hiking up the mountain that's got to poop." so, so of course the guides that are guiding them through this, and it's all about self-realization, responsibility, becoming a responsible person. And they're like, "Man, just go do it and get it over with." He's like, "No, we need to keep hiking. I can hold it." And meanwhile he's sweating and turning red, and he ends up going over, and everybody's watching him walk away to go do this thing. But I just got a kick out of it. And if you don't have kids around and you have Netflix, it's definitely a fun show to watch. But like I said, if you don't like foul language, and it's got some bad. I mean, these are like snotty nosed brats, But I'm enjoying it because that's my daily life, man. Like I go into the school and I'm trying to mold these young people's lives into some being responsible citizens when they get out. And I like when I'm watching this, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I deal with right there. You know, Privileged, young, not rich, but just you know, this generation is tough. It's really
Yeah,
tough. So I can identify with it, and I can get past the language in my mind because I hear it
yeah.
all the time. Oh man. But hey, look, that was a great topic, but I don't want us to leave tonight without talking about something that happened last night. If you're not really in tune with the catfish community, quote unquote, then I want to tell you about a channel. It's called Epic Catfish, and the main character in the channel is Tim Scott, um, and him and his buddy Sean make this channel about hunting giant catfish, and that's their whole thing. That's what they live for. What do they say? They use donkey baits and donkey weights,
That's right.
right? So they make their own weights. They use like 16-ounce, 2-pound weights to keep these giant 1-pound baits down on the bottom. They fish the Mississippi River up near big, river flows and giant barges, like the most dangerous stuff you can get in. But they hunt these giant cats. Well, unfortunately, earlier, about maybe a month ago, Tim, the main guy, his oldest son, Garrett, uh, passed away in a car crash. And it really kind of shocked the community. And,
Right
you
in the
know,
middle of your live stream, we heard about it.
oh, yeah, that's right. I was live at the
Yeah.
time, and I had just caught a fish, and I was super jazzed about it.
Yep.
Um, and then it pop up, and Sean's in there saying, yeah, thanks, guys. It was horrible, but this and that. I'm like, oh, what's going on? So I throw the fish back. I scroll up, and that's where I see, he had lost his son. And, you know, obviously devastating. You're not supposed to die before your children, or your children aren't supposed to die before you. I mean, and so we all felt for him, and the community came together, donated some cash, sent prayers, text messages, emails, all this stuff. And long story short, and we'll get to why we want to talk about it in a minute, but last night was their first night. And this is Friday night. It was July 30th, or 29th, one of them two. Um, their first night going live fishing for giant catfish since this tragedy happened, and it was Tim and his buddy Sean and his youngest son Connor, and they went out there. And this is where I'm going to hand it over to you, Mike, and you can kind of give your perspective on it because you actually were in the chat a lot. Um, what did that kind of mean? Like what happened and last night, and what did that kind of mean to you and to them?
Well, it was definitely something that I had been waiting to see for a little while, and it sounds horrible to say things from such a selfish me kind of perspective, but I know whenever I deal with life struggles, oftentimes all I want to do is just get back to fishing. And it's peaceful, it's tranquil. To me, it's good for your soul. That's how I look at fishing anyway. That's how I feel it. And so hadn't said anything. I hadn't asked anybody anything. We just I think most of us were just waiting to hear when our friend was going to go back fishing. And like Kevin says, these guys, they're going after the biggest things down there, and they know how to find them, and they get their chances. And I think Tim's caught more 100 pounders than I've probably caught fish over 20 pounds in my whole life. And he does it. He's figured it out. He studies it. He continues to do it. But you see them say, "Hey, we're gonna go fishing," and Connor's coming with us, and I'm like, "Whoa!" It's like this is what we all needed. But the fact that they're so strong and doing so well, and they're going for it, they're going to try to have that fun, because when life hits you like that, fun doesn't feel the same. When you're first trying to get back to doing something that you normally do for fun or for enjoyment, or so part of me is just like, wow. It's like, I hope it goes well. I'm worried. I'm thinking, how are they going to do
Yeah, because the
themselves?
last thing you want is for them to get skunked, right?
Yeah.
No, it's like
And even
you're worried
then,
about that.
sometimes you go and you do that kind of stuff, and then you're not the same either. It's rough. And here these guys are going out there, and they're going to go live on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. I was like, it's inspiring, it's encouraging, and incredibly brave. And sure enough, as soon as they flipped the switch on, they weren't even ready, because they
No.
were getting their rods out, and instantly they hooked into a beast. And they had already hoisted it up into the boat. And you look at this fish, and you're just like, and Sean had caught it. They said Sean had reeled it in, and he's all happy and he's excited, and feeling positive. And there's Connor helping him, and Tim's talking, and then he picks the thing up, and I'm just like, my gosh. I was like, how big is that thing? Because
Mhm.
Sean's a very normal sized individual. He is not small. He's not petite by any means, but when the fish are that big, and I've never caught one, I've never seen one that big, but when these guys are holding them, and you can just see their arm locked in a big L under that fish's big belly, and the fish just looks muscular as can be. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's covering his whole chest. So the first fish, I don't know if it was in the 60 range or 65 or
Mm.
whatever, but it was big.
Sure did look like it.
And they started off happy. They were excited. They're high-fiving. They're having a great time. And I felt great for them. So everything started off so positively.
Well, then that kept happening. It was
Yeah.
30, a 40, a
Yep.
50, another 50, a 40, a 30. And
Yep.
it was like they couldn't be stopped. It was like there was a presence with them.
Yeah.
Like it was
And
blessed. That's what
we
I like. That's what I said. It's like the night was blessed.
yeah, we were talking about that in the pre-show too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that everybody, well, here I'll say it this way. I know that everybody doesn't share the same faith. I know that people believe differently. I know that
Right.
some people do not believe that there is a God.
Right.
And last night you see these guys catching these fish left, right, and having a good time. And I was so tired, and we were going to get up this morning, travel 2 hours and some odd minutes to a zoo, a bigger zoo, because Leia had said, "Hey, I want to go to the big zoo and see all the other animals." So when your kids ask you for something, you try to do it if you can. So we set it all up. But last night I'm like, I can't stop watching this. I was like, I need sleep, but I can't stop watching this. So I got comfortable in the chair and I'm talking to the dog. The dog is asleep. He's asleep right now. And I'm just like, I can't not watch this. I was like, and I could tell that I was dozing off every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it was probably what? I don't know if it was like after midnight.
It was. I mean, it seemed like it was after 1 o'clock.
It was after 1, you think?
It's definitely after midnight. Definitely after midnight.
Um,
Something
huge shit.
extraordinary happened.
Yeah, a huge battle, huge tussle, and these
And
guys were throwing
who
out
who grabs
chunks
the
of
rod?
bait. Yeah, it
So
was
so there's
Connor.
there's a there's a the biggest fish of the night,
Yep,
and
the
who
biggest
grabs the
fish of
rod?
the night. Tim's son is on this rod, and just to give everybody a little idea, um, they're throwing out hunks of bait that are like bigger than their hands. I mean, just
They said
humongous
like 1 pound
bait.
bait.
Yeah, hunks of carp and hunks of Asian carp. And I thought they said they had one moon eye, but I can't remember if they used it or not or what or when because it was getting late. I was really sleepy and honestly, I thought that I dreamt it. And then I woke up, Kristen's getting ready, I got to get up, I got to get ready. We got to get all this, get the snacks, get the drinks, get the kids ready to get out, get the dog ready. Then the dog got off of his leash. He's running around the neighborhood trying to get him back in here so we can go to the zoo. And then I'm like, wait, I need to look at my phone. And you had sent the link
Hmm.
showing that Connor
Yeah,
had
because I
caught
missed it too.
Connor had caught a blue cat
Hmm.
that was over 100 pounds.
Hmm.
And they have a very, very amazingly accurate formula for that.
Well,
But I
and
guess
and Tim Scott, who's
yeah,
caught
Tim knows. Yeah.
multiples over 100.
Hmm.
When he says it's 100, you believe him.
Well, he's caught what, like a dozen or
Well, the first
18,
video he ever put
18 fish
out
over 100 pounds.
was estimated at 130-pound fish.
Yeah. So
Y'all got
he
to
knows.
go check out
Yeah.
Epic Catfish on YouTube, guys. But I just want to go back.
Amazing.
I want to go back to, so this morning I scanned through it and I was commenting like timestamps so Tim could find them. And then I got to that point where the big one was, the big one, the biggest one, and the rod goes down and Connor jumps on it. And at that point, I didn't know who had reeled it in because after I got done my live stream on TikTok, I they were still live. So
Yep.
I came in there and Sean had told me, he was like, "Yeah, we got several 50s and 100." I was like, "What? 100? Like that's just something you don't hear. You don't hear that." Yeah, I caught 100 today. 100 what? Bluegill? you know. But yeah, so I get up first. I have my breakfast, and I'm sitting there scanning through, and YouTube has this feature where you can clip something, and you can send somebody the link. And it's the first time I ever used it, and I sent it to everybody. Probably everybody already saw it, but I sent it to a lot of people. I sent it to Tim, and Tim ended up calling me. He said, "Man, was that an awesome night or what?" I said, "It looked like it, man." We talked for about 15 minutes. And I said, "How awesome was that your son grabbed that rod? You lost the son." I didn't tell that was into that conversation, but I was thinking, you lost a son, and the first night you go live, not only is it just a blessed night, but then your remaining son grabs that rod and catches the biggest catfish of his life. I mean, that's like Mike said. I know people don't believe in the afterlife or God or a being, an ultimate being. I do, and I'll say that to the day I die. But you can't tell me. You can tell me, but I'm gonna have my own opinion. You're not gonna change it. God was on that boat last night with them, and He was blessing them because He knew how much pain those three guys, and let's not forget about Tim's wife, how much pain they had gone through. Um, and then to see the joy that was brought back in, even if it was just for last night, even if it was just for those few hours, the joy that came from catching a fish, one of God's creations, and then they got to let it go. It's just I'm not much of a mushy type guy, but that'll pull your heartstrings right there. And anyway, I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
something that was worth talking about. And you mentioned it too. I mentioned it, and you kind of went further on it. I said, Sean is just a friend of the family, but I believe Sean probably treats those boys like his own. And then you said something that you saw on his
Yeah.
face
I
last night.
once the two of them combine their efforts to hoist that
That big
fish
fish.
into the boat, you could just see Sean touch Connor's shoulders, kind of give him a pat like way to go, and I'm happy for you, I was, glad I'm here. This is awesome. And then it's like he turned away, and it's loss is a huge thing, and we're all going to face it. And like I had said, sometimes just trying to do something again that makes you feel good, I worry that sometimes it won't be the same anymore. But you could just tell, like, for that split second, maybe I'm making it up, maybe he's looking at the other rods, but I kind of doubt it. You could just tell that it meant that much to him. And I think that, looking at the size of the fish, Connor might just been like, "Whoa," but those guys know. But and they had that experience, and Tim wasn't on camera, so we can only imagine, until those of us who talk to him get to talk to him. But it meant a lot to me too, as a friend, as a someone who's reached out to Tim a few times in the last month, just letting him know that we're still praying for him, and care about him, and hope that he's doing as well as he can do. And last night they certainly did just about as well as
Yeah.
anybody could do in that boat. That was amazing stuff.
And I imagine that and this is all personal perspective, people. Like
Yep.
this,
Yep.
none of what we're saying is confirmed. But I like that. If you talk, I know Tim a little bit, and so does Mike. Probably is true, but this is just how the whole moment, the whole night, kind of made us feel from an outside perspective. But I'd like to imagine that last night was the start of a different kind of healing process. Like, I'm sure Garrett wanted his dad to get back out there and do what he loves to do, um, and especially with his little brother. And I imagine when his little brother picked up that fish, I can't imagine what went through Tim's heart because the first video we ever saw, who was on that boat with him?
Yep. Both his
Garrett,
boys.
Garrett and Connor.
Yep.
And they pulled that fish in together and sat it on Dad's lap, and they all had a piece of that.
Yeah. If y'all haven't seen that video, you need to go see
Amazing,
that.
amazing. But Mike, now that we've gotten all mushy, it's been a good show, man. I think we had a good topic, and I think people will relate to what we're talking about here in the end. Fishing means a lot of different things to different people, but I think in one way, fishing means the same. to all of us. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Any final words?
Well, I totally agree with you. As I usually do, I totally agree with you. And if anybody didn't happen to catch our friends Tim, Sean, and Connor fishing last night, they're fishing right now too.
Yeah.
So give it a look. Give the channel a look. If you want to subscribe, hit that little bell,
Mm,
and you can catch the next one if you didn't catch
yeah.
last night or if you can't catch tonight, because those guys are fun. They're
And that
awesome.
reminds me, guys, help us out too. We have a YouTube channel where we put so we, as you can tell by today, we had a few mix ups, but we do live podcasts. And so we're video recording this as well. And we put that on our YouTube channel, the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. So if you want to see us mess up and the looks on our faces and the chuckles we have, go over there and check it out. Subscribe. We're almost to 100. We're so close to 100 subscribers. Um, Also, check out Murillo's Family Fishing on YouTube. See Lauren do some Lauren interviews and see Leia and Mike and the whole family and Lauren go out and fish and just have a great time. Also, Palmetto Cats. We're almost to 10,000 subscribers, y'all. I can feel it. I think we're less than 400 away. So, go over there and check me out. Join the Boom Squad if you want to come in and see these live recorded podcasts like Uncle Jeep and Chris tonight. They're in here chatting with us and watching. It's exclusively Boom Squad members that get to chat and participate in the live recording. That being said, we're going to pray and we're going to get out of here. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another opportunity to share the love for fishing with each other and to the world. Frankly, we don't take it for granted that we get to do this in a world where there's so much wrong with things out there, hunger and war and fighting and infighting and civil war. But Lord, we get to go fishing and we get to enjoy your creation. We thank you. Lord, our thoughts and prayers go out to Tim and his family, Lord, for continued healing. And we just thank you for giving them that night last night, Lord. And I pray that they'll, as they're out fishing tonight, that you keep them safe and you bless them again. Lord, I thank you for Mike, my friend. Lord, we have a good friendship going and we love this podcast thing. We just thank you for blessing it. And Lord, if we ever do anything that's not your will, let us know. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Till next time. Happy fishing, everybody.